Hey everyone, I'm nemo.nova from ArtMercs.net, and I always come to you in peace. Incidentally, this is exactly what I want to talk about today. I want to talk to you guys about patience. I want to talk about calm. I want to talk to you about how to get great drawings and how they can only be achieved through calm, yet directed energy. And I want to talk about being in the moment while simultaneously hoping for a good future and the contradictions that people don't realize occur when you worry and doubt yourself. Now, I'm going to own exactly what I say. I'm going to take responsibility for it, but I do need to say something up front. Though I do read a lot, I make observations, I experiment, and I draw conclusions like a scientist would. I don't have a PhD, nor do I claim to be an expert on stress management, pain, etc. I mean, even having a PhD, some piece of paper, doesn't really guarantee you know what you're talking about. But anyway, I'm just a working professional artist, and I've done a lot of odd jobs before that. But through discipline, I got to where I want to be. I've doubted myself and thought about quitting, cried and screamed out of frustration that I had nothing of value to show anyone, nor the ability to bring a piece to fruition, regardless of whether I got a good idea or not. What I want to do today is explain to you how to reframe that doubt and pain of progress in your mind to something far more useful. Essentially, you're going to change the thought of I'm worthless, failure, and I'm kidding myself by chasing my dream to I presently struggle with X and I will change it like this. So anyway, to begin, I'm doing an inking here, and I'll be talking about my tools for this drawing. I'm using a Staedtler lead holder with a 4H lead, which is a really hard one so that the line is light and it's easy to erase and it doesn't smudge. Furthermore, I got a normal white eraser, maybe one of those gray kneadable eraser 2s. I'm not sure whether that's in the picture or not, but I can't remember. But anyway, I also have an assortment of Sharpies for liners and filling large black areas as well. I have thick Sharpies for that, as well as a white pen. You can use the gel one, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Anyone will do. As well as my secret weapon, the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, which I'm using right now in the picture. And this is not, I repeat, not Tombow's standard dual brush pens. Don't use those. Those are absolute garbage. I'm sorry. They are impermanent and they're smudgy. They're nowhere close to solid black, okay? Stay away from those. I'm completely serious. Any attempt to color over them will lead to mud. Okay, anyway. Essentially, today we will be inking, and I do this a lot, and by no means am I incredible at it, just medium level. And that is because I spend most of my time painting. Regardless, I think this is the perfect art form to cover today's topic. Stress is the worst thing you can do to yourself. Death ruins only one day of your life. Stress ruins everything and every day. Inking is my exercise to expel stress, second only to talking things out with the love of my life, Deanna, my business partner, my rock. She is also an artist, by the way, and she goes by Atomic DNA. She's most excellent. However, when no one is there for you, your art will be. Use it to say what you gotta say. You can do that through a creative expression shown through the subject you choose, or the energy in your line, maybe the wildness of color, whatever. But when you've got nothing clear to say and your thoughts aren't organized, just ink, okay? Breathe, focus on your breathing as you attempt to get that line as straight and clean as possible. There is nothing outside of this. Try different tools, practice making circles and clean strokes. Be patient. Focus on slowness. You can get a little excited when everything is going right, but don't try to speed up. Believe me, you're naturally going to try to go faster and faster. Your body will try, especially as you get more comfortable. So reminding yourself to breathe and to be slow is important. Interestingly, at the point that you realize you haven't thought about what's bothering you in the world for a while, it's probably been like 30 minutes to an hour later. Actually, you'll be amazed how enthralled you get into this. That's when you're ready to tackle those problems again. But not all problems are worth solving. Do you really need to detail every little line on a person's skin when you ink? Every hair? Do you even have the tool for that? And would it really improve the overall picture? Or just overcomplicate it? You mess it all up. Did that thing that person said to you today actually hurt you or just your ego? Ask yourself, both in inking and in life, do I really need to draw this line? Do I really need to draw this line on the paper or in the sand? Does this life I'm building / this picture I'm drawing really benefit from this? Sometimes I feel I don't know how to handle inking a particular part of the drawing, but I'm sure of others. Damn sure, in fact. Well, I'll jump there. Maybe as I work there, I'll get an idea. My mind is so used to handling, some particular problems in some areas that this kind of work, I can do it with very little mental energy. Thus, here, I can calmly ponder what I'm going to do, and I do so at a safe distance. Essentially, I go back when I'm ready, and that may require bravery. Unfortunately, I'm only covering in this video how to manage your doubt, not how to not be a coward. And if you want to be afraid, I'll tell you what you should be afraid of. You should be afraid of regret, not the possibility of failing. Knowing that you turtled up and ran away, that stuff eats you. That's the real pain. And you know what I'm talking about. You should have talked to that girl or said this or done that. You drank too much and did no training that summer, etc. And you were probably afraid of being told no, I suppose. And it's happened to me too. There's a lot of things that I didn't even try. Well, you miss every shot that you didn't take, right? So here, where you're drawing, you can practice being assertive with your art. You can be experimental and attacking here. Your mind will get used to being assertive. You can actually change your personality through your drawing, believe it or not. You want to know something? It's just a goddamn drawing, okay? No one's going to die if you mess it up. Scan the pencil work if you're so worried. Or just do some practice inking over some sketches beforehand. You'll be fine. But here's what's cool. You can literally practice to the point that mistakes can be incorporated into the final drawing. You can shape that blotch of ink that fell out onto the page into some useful shape. Be creative. Or if that doesn't work, just use whiteout. Again, this is your training round, man. Expect errors in drawing as well as in life. And in fact, that is the real key. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Expect the mistakes. Use them. When taking your work to others to review and critique, you should already mostly know what's wrong with it, right? Because you did it. You experienced it. Critique and error correcting should be a part of your process. First you review and modify. Then someone you love critiques it and you take notes. Then someone you trust. Then someone you hate and who maybe hates you. Then again you modify. The finished product will be far greater than if you just did it once and walked away. You don't have to do this for everything you do, right? But the stuff you really care about will benefit from this. Your top art and your life will be greatly improved if you expect the mistakes and realize that they are par for the course. That's when you stop. You think, you run it by others, you get information, and then you act. Calmly. It's all calm. You if you don't get it right this time, you get it right next time. No one ever said that it has to be done the first time, At my studio, I run everything by my colleagues. I don't consider anything finished until it happens. And since it was all part of the plan, the mistakes, they were never mistakes for that reason. It was all part of your plan. And do take credit for it because you deserve it. Because the final decision was and is always yours. It doesn't matter how many people you run it by. You don't actually have to follow their ideas. It's yours. You're running it past them out of good work habits and courteousness. Interestingly enough, that may actually improve your relationship and may actually solve some problems with those people. You tell them, I haven't made my decision yet. What do you think? Make it very clear it's your decision. Ask for their opinion. People always appreciate being asked their opinions. In the end, everything can be solved by that, and the work improves. It's all good. There are no mistakes. There is only process and progress. And then money, because people love your work. They buy from you at the shows, and then you get clients, and then you work for a studio with other like-minded people, and everything is good because you remember where you came from, and so you value where you finally are. The timeline doesn't matter. like the damn Logan movie, you can do things out of order. Okay, you can do them slowly, you can do them fast, you can get distracted, you can jump here and there. You got other things you got to take care of. Well, go take care of them. You're not an island. You're not a person living on an island. You got family, you got friends. Sometimes you got to drop what you're doing, you got to jump in, you got to help them out, right? But always come back to you. Don't let somebody take the wheel of your car for too long. Okay, it's your car. You gotta keep driving it. Whatever. Just keep coming back, and the progress will build. There are long stories and there are short stories. The length doesn't determine how good the story is. Lord of the Rings is damn long. Everybody knows that's a good book. But, Curious George is damn short, and I love that book too. So don't worry anything about how long it takes you. I didn't really go pro until in this year, and I'm 30. So, that kind of shows you, right? But I was busy doing a bunch of other things. I was a factory man. I worked in funeral services. I worked in a chicken factory, a damn parking lot duty, restaurant, all sorts of nonsense, stuff that didn't make me happy. It got progressively better as it went, probably just because I ended up being like a better human being, and I was able to manage my stress and was a little more forward with what I wanted, what I didn't want. But, I got there was the point. Interestingly enough, it happened the year I posted on DeviantArt. This year I go pro. I'm committed. I'm going to do it. I kept going hard. I kept putting my stuff out there as much as possible. And it worked out. So in essence, drawing is my meditation because it does what meditation does. It enhances intention and focus. It creates peacefulness and relaxation. And it develops your willpower. Your ability to make the big decisions flows from your successes in making small decisions. Just get your mind used to making the call. Just get your brain used to making decisions. It gets easier as it goes because you'll consider yourself a decision maker, a doer. And it'll go from there. Now, finally, I want to talk about 2 more things on this subject and then I'm pretty much out. Number 1 is the psychological concept of cognitive dissonance. This is where your stress comes from, and I'm gonna explain to you how what I just previously said will destroy it. And number 2, I want to explain about how your mind is an absolutely incredible thing. It's a problem-solving machine, and you got to point it in the right direction. It is an evolutionarily constructed machine, not literally speaking, evolutionary constructed entity designed to solve problems, and you need to use that to your advantage. So anyway, first thing, cognitive dissonance, right? So in psychology, right, mental stress or discomfort or whatever the hell, you experience it mentally when as a person you simultaneously hold 2 or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or when you're performing an act that contradicts those beliefs, ideas, and values, or whatever, and or even when you're confronted with new information that contradicts existing beliefs, ideas, and values. What I'm trying to say is this is why it's so difficult to people to talk to each other, even in a democracy, because you already have a particular worldview, a design in your head about the way you think things work, a paradigm. And somebody will introduce a new piece of information, a statistic, a story, etc., telling you something that you don't at the moment believe. Somebody will come up to you and say something like, gun laws are too hard. We need to loosen them up so that more people can protect their homes or something like that. But you don't believe that because you grew up in the metropolitan area. Like me, and you think the argument's a little weak, but you should listen to them, but it's very difficult because your mind has already formed stress because somebody gave you an idea that doesn't align with your values. The reason why your mind is programmed for this, evolutionarily speaking, according to evolution anyway, again, I'm not a PhD, but this is what I've studied and learned. The reason why your mind doesn't take is guarding against new and contradictory information is because the brain, the mind, it doesn't so much care about what's right or wrong. It cares about what's going to help you survive. So what ends up happening with your evolutionarily loaded mind is that you're meeting somebody here with different information, a different worldview, and people who are different from you can kill you. okay? Because you're an outsider. You come from different places, you wear different clothes, you have different values. He's going to defend what he learned and what he knows and his people and his family, and he's going to look after their interests, and you need to do the same for yours, right? You guys could be enemies, which is why the mind tries to defend against contradictory statements. That isn't to say that we shouldn't try. I'm from Canada. I'm from Toronto. I believe in multiculturalism. I believe in ideas coming together and being talked out and sorted out, and not for who's right or wrong. I believe that when they mix together, that's when we come up with the best stuff. What do we eat today? We eat a little bit of everything. We make something good. Now, of course, most issues are more complicated than that. Some things we can say everyone needs to live under these rules, like this law. Some things we say no, different rules, different laws for different people depending on the situation. We're never going to find anything steady, but we do need to talk, and we do need to constantly communicate. Well, cognitive dissonance is therefore in your mind for a reason. You get stressed out with alternative information for a reason. Now, back to art. You may have in your head the idea that you're a good artist, and you know what you're doing, and a good artist should be able to handle drawing a symmetrical face from one side to another. But then you sit down and you try, and you're usually good at it, but somehow you're not today. It is really weird, right? Like you can't draw it. The line's all weird, and your eyes are not even from one side to another, etc. It happens to us all. It's really weird how some days I could sit down and those problems don't come to me at all. But on other days, I can't get rid of them. Well, it's like I said, your key to that is to stop trying to create the drawing and go back to inking, a more straightforward, mindless thing where you can breathe and focus and then come back to it, or go to a separate piece of paper, sketch, get your hand loose, get calm, think about that, and then track back to it. The idea is this. Your mind, when it comes into those cognitive dissonance situations where something's happening that doesn't align with your previous thoughts and now you're being stressed out, the way you deal with it is one of two ways. You either change your belief, so now you thought you were a good artist, you could technically change and say, oh, I'm not a good artist. That'll take away the stress. It'll just make you feel like a failure, but that'll take away the stress of currently engaging in that problem. Or the second way to deal with cognitive dissonance is to change the situation, change the information coming in. And that's what I always say is the better situation, to change the reality. So I'm currently struggling with drawing the eyes. Okay, well, that's why I'm going to walk away. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Or I'm going to go to inking where I'm not drawing. I'm just focusing on getting a straight line. And you're creating the connection between your hand and your mind. You're making it stronger, and you're making those decisions. And you weren't accurate at the beginning. You become more and more accurate. You'll be surprised that when you come back to the drawing stage or the painting stage or wherever you were previously at, that problem you previously had magically goes away. It's not magically going away. You're just moving to another problem. You're deferring. You're refocusing, recentering, retraining the hand and the mind and the eye to work together. Go back to the problem, tackle, and everything will be okay. Distance is important for reducing the dissonance, right? That's pretty much all it is. You need the distance. You need the practice in something else. Inking is distant enough from your real life, from whatever problems you have. You could be having it with your mom, your parents, your dad as well, your job, your siblings, your lovers, your school, your job, whatever. Drawing and inking specifically is different enough and so straightforward that it calms the mind. It gives you that distance you need. You may be tempted to, while you're drawing, think about those problems intensely. I completely don't recommend this. I recommend focusing on the line, breathing, go slow, get these lines straight, get control. Go from one drawing to another. They don't have to be sequitur. As you can see, this picture here, there is an overall composition because I'm doing a curve of eyes and faces. But overall, I didn't really have too much of a plan sitting down while doing this. I drew every picture quickly, very quickly, and then I inked over it. Kept me calm, kept me good. The result was fine. I'm very happy with it. And at the end of it, I felt very, very relaxed. Okay, now I want to talk about that second problem we were talking about. How your mind is a problem-solving machine and you got pointed in the right direction. Now, what I mean about that is very simple. You see, I'm sure you guys heard about Oprah's The Secret and crap like that, where they and it is crap. I want to make that very clear. The universe does not care about you. It's not out there to give you what you want. And just asking the universe to give you a Lamborghini doesn't mean the Lamborghini is going to pop into your head. Okay, that's not the way it works. But I am going to explain why I think that believing in something and thinking about it a lot manifests these things. So, look at it this way. Again, your mind is an evolutionarily beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a powerhouse. It's absolutely incredible. This thing. It is the most single complicated thing in the universe. We're talking about something where every single cell in your mind, the neural connection, doesn't just connect to the other ones on a 1-to-1 ratio. There can be 10,000 connections each. That is literally more neural connections in your head than there are stars in the universe. And that's in every single one of our brains. I don't think people understand the complexity of the goddamn thing in your head. It's amazing. And by the way, it is false that we only use 10% of our brains. That's completely false information. We use 100% of our brains. We just don't use all of it at any given time. So, with all that being said, you may have noticed that you have a particular problem, something you can't solve. Maybe you're doing some carpentry or something like this, etc. And you're thinking about, you're pondering it, whatever. And you can't come up with that solution right there. So what ends up happening is that you go for a walk or something else happens in life and you go out there. And on your way, you come up with the idea because someone said something or you saw something that gives you the idea. And you're like, oh, that's how it is. Like, for instance, for me, I had to build for some work. I had to do some carpentry work. I had to build a 10-foot by 10-foot wooden arch. And I didn't really understand how to connect the wood properly to make it hold in a very strong way. And I couldn't figure it out for like a week. I just couldn't figure it out. I was looking at things online and nothing seemed strong enough and safe enough. Well, anyway, I went through a walk with my girlfriend in the park, and we were walking in the woods, and next thing I know, I was walking over this bridge, and I saw the way that bridge was constructed, the way that these guys fastened everything using these bolts. That was the idea that I needed. Now, normally I would have walked by that bridge without thinking about it at all. I would walk right by and never seen those bolts because they weren't of use to me at the time. But because I sicked my brain on that problem earlier, it started detecting things in that similar nature and brought up that thought. Basically, by thinking about a certain subject, you're pointing your brain in that direction, and it will, even without you trying, gather information pertaining to that problem. And it will give it to you. And that's when you have the aha, eureka moments. That's all it is. And then you make the choice to apply that information to your problem. And the next thing you know, you got progress. It's just that simple. So it's not about the Lamborghini, right, per se. I'm pretty sure that if you think about the Lamborghini enough, you'll find some weird way of getting it. You could probably get a Lamborghini pretty quickly. Not to own, just to get one. There's ways. There's people you could talk to about that. But, think about pointing your brain in the wrong direction for a second. You have situations where people just can't get their head out of the past and things that they did wrong. Arguments that they have with their dad, arguments that they have with their mom, and things that they should have said, and things that they should have done at the time would have been better. Regretting going to some class that wasn't good for them. It didn't get them anywhere. Now you got all this school debt. Now you got this. You're regretting all your problems. You're regretting everything that you did in life. Well, here's the thing. When you make your mind think about past mistakes, you are sicking in on problems that literally don't have a solution. Because what ends up happening is that your mind is trying to solve a reality that isn't actually your current reality. It's trying to solve, how do I not go to school for a course that won't help me, so I don't build this debt. But you already went to that class. You already finished that program. You already got that debt, and you didn't get that job. So you're trying to think about that problem. It's literally trying to solve a problem that can't be solved. There is no solution. And then again, the cognitive stress comes up. You see, your mind doesn't know what's actually happening and what's not. It just takes in information and makes its best guess. So when you feed it that information by thinking about those ideas, it's going to try to come up with solutions to it. And it can't. And that's why you get into those cycles where people think about these things for years, because your mind sticks on that problem. It likes to stick on the problem until it's solved. Once the problem is solved, it's your mind doesn't linger on the solution it already figured out, right? Your mind just moves on to the next thing, because it's always concerned with survival and progress and things like that. What I'm trying to say in a bit of a complicated manner, and it needs to be complicated because you guys need to know how important this is. What I'm trying to say is that you have to think about the future, not the past. You have to. You don't even need to know everything that you think you need to know to actually make progress. Your mind will fill in those gaps because it will observe, it will listen to people in a different way, and it will pull information in that order. As long as you think about your success, as long as you think about your drawing or your art or wherever you're trying to go, I assume that most people who are watching this channel, watching my work, are also trying to be artists and good people, of course, but they're mostly thinking about their careers, or they're thinking about doing great work and great artwork. I imagine most people looking at my channel for that. Well, if those are the things that you're concerned about, then you have to actually be concerned about that. You have to think about that. You can't think about the other things. Now, let's say you have somebody in your life who keeps bringing it up. Remember what I said before about critiquing? Remember what I said when you should have it as part of your regular process, people's critiques, your critiques, etc. I think we all remember that teacher where we put up our hand to answer a question, and we didn't answer it the way the person wanted. And then they had the stupidest response to it. They said something akin to, no, wrong. Can somebody help him, please? Right, that happened to me before. But simultaneously, though, I remember that a lot less than I do this one teacher who was just really supportive. If you didn't say the answer that he said, he always tried to weave it in. He's like, oh, well, interesting. I like how you said this part. I like said that part. I was thinking more on this part here. So the thing is, it's almost like he appreciated the wrong answer as well. And he kind of guided you towards what he felt was the right lesson, or at least what he felt was the lesson that he wanted you guys to get out of the class that day. I always thought that took some incredible intelligence. So the point is that if you're running into people who critique incorrectly, or sorry, not correctly, but critique roughly, and they're causing you stress, and they're causing you those problems, and you're trying to think about the future and your progress, but they keep on using these control concepts to make you think about them. They could be saying oh, you're too busy doing this, you're too busy doing that, you never think about me, I'm never in your thoughts, and you miss this day, you miss that day, etc., etc. Well, I have to be honest with you, man. Some people just need to be dropped out of your life. You gotta think about it kind of like you're drowning, because the stakes are kind of that high. I'm not gonna get into detail, but I recently had somebody who I didn't know the person very close, but this person committed suicide, and it is because his life wasn't going to, in his opinion, anywhere. And he was hitting dead ends in every direction. And he surrounded himself with the wrong people who were demanding of him, not letting him be himself and not letting him live. I'm sure it felt like he was hitting a wrong direction in every corner with these people. The stakes are actually very high. When you have unsupported people or needy people or broken people who make you feel guilty for being you and pursuing your goals, and being who you are and caring about what you care about, you need to remove yourself from those people. They could be family. You need to move out of that house, okay? Because, and people gotta say, oh, nemo.nova, he's telling people they gotta move out. They gotta move out of their house. They gotta leave their family for their art. Not necessarily saying that. If you can, that's a last resort. If you can solve the problem with your family, and do your art at the same time, that will always be preferable. A mutual solution will always be preferable, but sometimes a little distance is needed. And no one's talking about not talking to somebody forever. We're just talking about a little bit of distance. You do your thing, you get to where you need to go, and with time, again, it's all about distance. Solve the problems you can solve, come back to the other things later. Hopefully that person progresses as well. Normally they would. You'd be surprised at how many families get fixed after the divorce, where people suddenly start getting along after that. or families get fixed when the person moves out. They were arguing a lot when they were out of the house, but afterwards they learn to appreciate each other because of the distance, because they don't live under the same roof, and they make time for each other. And even though they don't see each other as much, the time that they do spend together is more valuable. You'd be surprised. You can help the whole relationship by fixing yourself. And how do you fix yourself? You fix yourself by focusing on what you love and you. It's amazing. It's what I was talking about. It's the contradictions. The contradiction of, I don't want to be selfish, so I got to drop what I'm doing and I got to think about the family. No. You're going to hurt the family by not being selfish. You have to understand. When you don't do what you need to do, when you don't behave like who you are, which is an artist, which is a creative person, you have to pursue your passion. When you don't do that, what ends up happening is that you will become passive aggressive to the people who stopped you. You'll end up resenting your family because you're like, I had a shot, but then you came, or you said this or you did that. I gave it up for you, and then you're going to resent them, and that's going to lead to fights. People bring that type of crap up during arguments. They do that in many families. I'm just being real here. If you really want to hold the peace, you got to get your peace. Once you got peace, that's when you can spread that peace. And again, I have to throw out that disclaimer. Everyone's got a different situation. If you feel that this doesn't apply to you, then please don't. But I think it absolutely did for me. I now have a solid relationship with everyone in my family. My mother, my dad, my brother, and I'm living with the love of my life. I am going to marry her. Everything is going swell. And it happened because I separated and took care of myself, got done what I needed to get done, and kept contact that way. The distance is what helped. So some people look at inking, back to the inking. Some people look at inking and they talk about it with a little disrespect. I've heard a lot of artists talk about this. I've heard Mark Morales talk about this. I've heard Tim Vigil talk about it. I've heard Joe Weems talk about it. I've heard a lot of people talk about, not in an angry way, but each of them in some way, these professional inkers, each one of them in some way have said that, people don't think some people don't understand inking. They don't understand the value in it. They don't understand why it's important. Inking came out in comics per se out of the necessity of the medium. You see that the printing technology at the time, people's pencils were not dark enough, were not clear enough to actually be reproduced. So, to be reproduced and then be printed out in comic book format when they drew it on paper. It's just the scanning technology wasn't there with that detail. It is now. You can go straight from pencils to coloring. It's fine. But at the time, it wasn't. So what they did was they inked it afterwards, and that's where inking came from, out of necessity. And it just adds to the reason why people disrespect it. But no, inking is exactly what I've been talking about the whole time. You pencil, you get pretty damn close to the final picture. What you want. You make it very clear what you want the picture to be. You figure out all the problems. You figure out lighting. You figure out composition. You figure out all this. Inking is the finishing touch. It's what makes it beautiful. Inking is the reinterpretation, the modification, the everything, the clarity. You think about line weight. You think about distance. You think about focus. You think about texture. You think about tension. You think about you think about weight in the figure and force. All these things come together to make a better picture. And again, it all has to be done calmly. All of life basically has to be done calmly. The allure of losing control is not a myth. It's sometimes losing control can be very, very nice in the moment, but I think we all know most of the time it does more harm than good. There are definitely times when you should do it, like in a certain environments. You can lose control of the dance floor. Please do. Don't lose control when you're drunk. Don't do that. Control yourselves is wrong. You know it's wrong. losing control at certain times is good, but most of the time you'll find that you'll get much better results when you have calm, assertive energy. You are calm, but you're not weak. You're calm, but you're focused. It's like Bruce Lee, be like water, my friend. You'll be like water, water can flow, or it can crash, or it be like water. So the point is, you're not being, you can be adaptive, or you can be aggressive, whatever. But whatever you do, you have to do it calmly. Calm is the key. It's the key to everything. I feel, to everything that I've done. I'm not gonna say that I'm calm all the time, but I've gotten to the point that when I'm not, I realize it. And I've got plenty of tools to refocus. If it's not the drawing, it's if it's not the drawing itself, then it's the inking. If it's not that, then it's talking to Deanna. And if it's not that, sometimes I actually just sit down and I write out the things, because writing is another thing. You don't even have to be drawing. Writing is a way of organizing your thoughts, and you're getting it out. You'll find that just the process of writing will relax you by the end of it anyway. I don't always recommend writing because it's so direct on the problem that you're thinking about at the moment. As like I said, sometimes what you need is distance, but almost any type of expression when you're starting off will do. So, and remember, this is not distraction from your actual problems. This is a refocusing, a distance to modify, to think about something else. I honestly think that's the key. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to come up with another video soon. And, yep, as always, peace.